When I woke up, even before I opened my eyes, I noticed that the room was light. It's the rising sun reflecting off the Atlantic through the windows of our room on the Carolina coast. I felt the touch of soft, warm flesh. I slowly opened my eyes, letting them get used to the bright light. April's slender ass, clad in almost transparent satin panties, came into my field of vision. First day of our 4 days of vacation was consumed by family wedding obligations, but the second day started off very well. A fun day at the beach with April in a new and temptingly tiny bikini, a fabulous dinner, and a lot of romp in bed. The third day started off very well. Before I describe the rest of our vacation, let me tell you how it all got to this point. My work colleagues who know me often tease me about my work wives, referring to two women with whom I work very closely. Those who know me best tease my mother and daughter about work. Ellen, teasingly referred to as my work mom, is actually my executive assistant, providing tremendous guidance and support to me and my team. Ellen is about 15 years older than me, extremely insightful, hardworking, and disciplined, as well as a formidable personality who helps the team work well together. Janet, my work daughter, is a young woman I have mentored for the past 5 years who has grown into an exceptionally talented marketing professional who has recently won several coveted contracts and a significant industry award for creativity. What contributes to her success is her captivating personality, sharp mind, creativity, and, might I add, exceptional good looks. Janet is something of a project. I took a chance and hired her because she had recently dropped out of graduate school, divorced her philanthropist husband, recruited 55 pounds in postpartum and post-divorce depression, and had difficulty caring for herself and her infant son. But her core values and quick, insightful responses to my interview questions, as well as Ellen's agreement with my opinions, outweighed HR's recommendation. As it turns out, these two women had a significant impact on my marriage. No, I was not romantically involved with Janet or Ellen. I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy working with Janet and having her in the office. She is naturally slightly flirtatious and affectionate. She has a seductive voice and a killer smile. I, of course, looked at her in various skirts and casual outfits, enjoyed the rare glimpses of her cleavage, and tried to concentrate as she put on heels and a tight pencil skirt. But in reality, I spend much more time watching the group of men in the office, trying to interrupt her work efforts, or being distracted by admiring glances and finding any opportunity to pass by her work area. I love my wife, April, and fully intend to fulfill my marital obligations if at all possible. However, over the past few years, my relationship with my wife has deteriorated significantly, and it has become very frustrating. Busy work schedules, new demands on our time as our parents grew older and needed extra attention, and children leaving for college have eroded previous relationships. After 23 years, our intimacy had declined to an unacceptable level. Romantic gestures and several attempts at serious conversations fell on deaf ears. My frustration became so obvious that Ellen picked up on it, making me realize that my attitude was affecting my overall behavior. April was a pretty girl when I met her in college, but over the years, she has grown into a beautiful woman. Judging by her mother and sisters, it is clear that the family is blessed with genetics that are well preserved. April is still stunningly attractive, although she doesn't make much effort to enhance her looks for me or others. As it turns out, I choose most of her clothes, and even then, she usually sticks to comfortable, casual clothes, leaving her closet and many dresser drawers full of barely used feminine outfits that highlight her beauty. But the fact that she doesn't dress to impress me was the least of my disappointments. The lack of interest in intimate life and respect for my general dissatisfaction takes its toll. There is no evidence that menopause is to blame, and there is no evidence of an extramarital affair. On some level, I'm sure April still loves me, but maybe she doesn't like me that much, and she certainly doesn't show any signs of attraction to me. This was the case about 9 months ago, when for some unknown reason, everything changed dramatically. A month ago, I found out the reason, and then everything changed even more. 9 months ago, my office hosted a staff recognition banquet, for outstanding achievement and the end of our most successful year yet. I was accompanied to the reception by April, but as it turned out, I was seated at the head table next to my coworker, Janet, who was about to receive an award for excellence. My duties included presenting the award. For the first time in my life, I bought a bespoke suit, which I was told looked amazing. Janet looks amazing too. Her hair is professionally styled, a rare luxury for her, and her dress fits like it was painted. Tasteful cleavage, shiny stockings, 10-centimeter heels, and a smile of 1,000 watts complete the package. After the award presentation, with the obligatory handshakes, hugs, and photographs, I noticed that Ellen and April had excused themselves and left the room for what I assumed was a visit to the restroom. 45 minutes passed before they returned. I didn't think much of it at the time, but I certainly remembered it. Later that evening, April and I danced for the first time in years. We didn't have honeymoon sex or even older married sex that night, but for the first time in months, we were cuddling and cuddling. The changes continued. April came out to breakfast wearing yoga pants instead of sweatpants. A cute top replaced her baggy button-down shirt. She said she was heading to the gym to sign up for some classes. After lunch, she shuffled the clothes in her dresser and closet. On Wednesday and Saturday, we had intimate relations, for the first time in many years, twice in a week. 6 weeks later, the twice-a-week routine had turned into 3 times, and hot sex became a more appropriate description of our connection. 6 weeks later, an April gym session had resulted in a 10-pound weight loss and stamina recovery, so that our bedroom antics could be described as wild sex, more reminiscent of college drinking bouts of horny students practicing all the positions described in the Kama Sutra. In addition to expressing my gratitude, I happened to inquire about the reason for all these changes. April's answer was always the same. "I love you," without any further elaboration. I was grateful to be reunited with April because my work wives had also experienced changes in status. Janet was promoted to our West Coast office, and Ellen retired. A month ago, 8 months after the awards banquet, I had the opportunity to have lunch with Ellen. After talking about her travels and activities in retirement, she asked how things were going in April. I smiled and said that things were going great on the home front. She chuckled and smiled in such a way that I knew she knew more than she was saying. I pressed her for more information. She looked into my eyes, smiled, and said, "You will pay for lunch. After all, you owe me a favor." She picked up her smartphone and typed in a few commands. After a few waves of her fingers, she looked at me and said, "I want you to listen to the audio file I sent you, and then delete it." That evening, after April left for the gym, I grabbed a diet drink and settled into a chair to listen to the file Ellen had sent. Yes, diet drink, not beer. A few months ago, I started working out and watching my diet to keep up with April. The file began with Ellen asking the question, "April, why do you think Jim and Janet are romantically involved?" April replied, "Look how they look at each other." She's beaming. Her cleavage is on display. Her nylon stockings have seams that I'm sure are stockings and garters. I don't. Remember the last time I saw him smile like that? He put on a new $1,000 suit to impress her. This can be seen when they look at each other. I wouldn't be surprised if they meet. There was a pause in the recording for more than a minute. Then Ellen spoke. "April, you couldn't be more wrong. I don't know where to start. Jim loves you, and you are incredibly lucky to have him. He is a wonderful person. Firstly, as you remember, Jim has your nephew's wedding in 2 weeks, and next month is your parents' 40th birthday. He asked me for advice on where he could buy a good new suit for these occasions. Secondly, he is very close to Janet. Close in the sense of a father-daughter relationship. He is very proud of her, and will not even consider a relationship that could jeopardize his or her future. Even if he were divorced from you, he would not pursue Janet because he understands that she has her whole life ahead of her with someone closer in age. You probably noticed a handsome man in uniform sitting at the table behind us. This is her companion, an officer whom Jim introduced her to about 2 months ago. This is who was supposed to be impressed by the neckline and seamed stockings. April muttered in response, but the way she looked at Jim. Ellen replied, Janet is a cool thing. She would never do anything to hurt Jim or jeopardize his marriage. But if Jim weren't married to you, I have no doubt that she would be more than happy to ignore the age difference and continue the relationship. She realizes what a great find Jim is. Ellen continued, You mentioned that Janet dressed up for Jim. What about yourself? You don't have any cleavage, but you have a great figure. Are you wearing tights or stockings? When you get home this evening, will Jim be able to see the sexy lingerie when you take off your dress? Have you put on his favorite perfume, and are you planning to dance with him? I noticed that you haven't updated your hairstyle for several years. But why exactly? The discussion continued for a few more minutes, discussing work life, home life, relationship changes, and other issues. Ellen then moved on to serious matters. It's no secret to Jim's loved ones that in the last couple of years he has been disappointed with household chores. It hurts him because he loves you so much. You may have heard an advertisement for a law firm that claims to be a man's best friend. When he wants a divorce, he's had one of these business cards in his desk drawer for months now. I think he got it from a golfing buddy. I have no evidence that he plans to do anything with it, but he didn't throw it away. If I were you, I'd take this as a warning. There was a pause for many minutes. Then April said, Thank you. And the recording ended, and they returned to the ballroom. So, this explains the changes in behavior. It is clear that I owe Ellen a huge debt of gratitude, and as per her request, I have deleted the audio file. Then I thought about what to do next. It's clear that April took the advice and made a huge effort to change our relationship. There was every indication that she was enjoying this rebirth as much as I was. A little jealousy and my wives at work did wonders for solving our midlife marital crisis. I'm grateful, but as I thought about it, I wondered how far April would go with this newfound sexual enthusiasm. That was a month ago, and marked the beginning of the next phase of April and I's sexual relationship. I intended to be careful and not overdo it. I have no intention of upsetting April or doing anything that might set back the current new normal. But I have dusted off a few fantasies and imagined us enjoying our new empty nest status as long as we both can. My first action was to allocate the generous commission I had recently received to ensure that April had a very enjoyable 46th birthday. She received a beautiful pair of diamond earrings, and her birthday gifts, made for my pleasure, were a very generous investment in a significant update to April's wardrobe, with a very pronounced emphasis on lingerie and various items that were noticeably sexier than her current wardrobe. A few romantic dinners and a trip to the adult toy store together have kept us busy over the past few weeks. The opportunity to turn our planned visit to our in-laws' wedding into a mini vacation seemed like the perfect chance to have some fun. Let's go back to the third day of vacation. As much as April's satin panty-clad ass tempted me, we were committed to a charter cruise along the coast and had less than an hour until boarding. Plus, I liked the idea of April being horny and wanted to save myself for action later in the day. The first 40 minutes were spent showering and a quick trip to the buffet for breakfast. Then it's time to dress for the cruise and take the 10-minute walk to the pier. I laid out a skimpy bikini and skimpy coverlet on the table, which got April thinking. I answered, You'll look sexy, no one will recognize you, have some fun, we're on vacation. I packed another swimsuit and a change of clothes in your carry-on if you need it. We didn't have much time, so April agreed. As we hurriedly walked the few blocks to the dock, I told April that I expected her to be the sexiest woman on the ship. In total, about 20 passengers were expected. The group was interesting. 2 young couples on their honeymoon, another couple who looked like 2 adulterous young professionals out for a weekend of fun, 5 older couples, and 2 young guys who we learned were on military leave before joining the army. The boat encountered a rough sea as we passed through the canal, and as we sat at the bow, April's breasts performed a delightful dance that attracted the attention of all the men on board. At first, April was embarrassed and blushed slightly. I couldn't help but laugh quietly as the other women took off their covers, trying to get their partner's attention back to them. April seemed to understand the dynamic and removed the covers as well. I took this opportunity to generously apply sunblock to her skin, causing April to shiver slightly, her skin glowing. We had been sailing for about an hour when the captain mentioned that since everyone on board was an adult and we were in international waters, women could sunbathe topless, although he did not allow nudity on the ship. About 5 minutes after one of the young wives noticed her husband looking at April, she took off her top. The rest of the newlyweds chatted quietly, and 5 minutes later, a very beautiful set of size 2 breasts were put on display for everyone to see. Another 5 minutes, and the naughty cheaters size 5 couple showed up. The captain served Bloody Marys, juices, and fruit cups for those who wanted to indulge. The attention of the men on board was now focused on April, and they all seemed to be wondering if she would be the next to shed her top. I told April about all the men watching and told her it was her turn to take her top off. I knew her perfectly formed and still perky C-cup breasts would definitely win my vote for best set on deck and teased, "What needs to be done to make you give up your top?" She answered, "New carpeting in the living room." "It's covered," I quickly answered. April giggled, unbuttoned her top and handed it to me, saying, "Please put this in my bag for later." Then she stood up and walked around the deck, helping herself to another Bloody Mary and cakes. This was as close to exposing herself as I had seen April in our 23 years of marriage, but she wasn't done yet. The 2 young soldiers clapped and proposed a bare-breasted toast as she took off her top. Even the older couples smiled and joined in the toast. The captain was grinning from ear to ear. April then walked up to the 2 young wives and whispered something to them. They, in turn, whispered in the ears of their husbands. April returned to our seating area and grabbed her bag, looking for her cap and sunglasses. She said I would have to take some photos. In a few moments, she had the women and 2 soldiers lined up on the deck in the order of girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. Sunglasses and caps made the women's faces unrecognizable to those not intimately familiar with exposed breasts and bikinis. April informed everyone that if she saw anyone else take out a camera, they would go overboard, and I would edit the photos to make sure the women were not identifiable by changing the color of bikini bottoms, hair color, and erasing wedding rings and identification signs, and then provide photos to 2 husbands and 2 soldiers as souvenirs of the cruise. I've never seen this side of April. I shook my head in surprise as she came back to me and thanked me for being such a good sport. As we headed to the pier, she put on her swimsuit without the bikini top. I wondered if she realized how see-through the swimsuit top would be in the bright sunlight as we walked back to the hotel and through the lobby. I wasn't going to say anything, of course, since she made it clear that we were heading to our room to satisfy this little need of hers. We were both so turned on that we barely walked in the door before all our clothes came off, and we started groping and kissing each other like horny teenagers. I had to take a nap and postpone the second round until the evening. At about 6 we started getting dressed for a normal evening. Less than a mile from our room, I spotted an interesting-looking Mexican restaurant with outdoor seating. It was the best vacation of our lives.
Thanks for hanging out and listening. If you liked the story, hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Make sure to check out our other wild tales right here on the end screen. Catch you in the next story.